We are finally getting true balanced journalism with respect to Israel and Palestine, specifically with the ambassador Mark Regev. Recently a missile came and landed, killed over 300 Palestinians at a hospital, and immediately the Hamas and others said that the Israelis dropped a bomb. The Israelis said it was an errant missile from Hamas, or not from Hamas, but from another Muslim terrorist group. And there we have the stalemate. Who is to be believed? Do we believe the Israeli Defense Force, or do we believe the supposed terrorists? Exactly. Who do we believe? The truth of the matter is, like I've mentioned several times, if you look at, and I'm not doing both sidisms, what occurred in Israel was horrendous. It was a terroristic attack. It was a murder. But also you take a look at the response and all previous things that occurred, and you look at the destruction inside of Gaza and the destruction in Israel caused by the terrorists in Gaza. You have to ask yourself the question, how do you constantly make these people to be bad, evil, and inhumane when there are more of these kids dying, there are more of these kids being maimed, being blown to pieces than on the other side. And this is not taking sides between Israel and Palestinians. This is just putting out an objective statement, an objective fact. But anyhow, the American media is starting to be more balanced in its coverage. And I want you to take a look at this, because even with the missile drop and the denials of both the terrorists and of Israel, we get a good measure of now our media finally looking for what really happens, as opposed to just taking at face value what somebody like the ambassador has to say here. Let's listen, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Ambassador Mark Regev, senior advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and a former Israeli ambassador to the UK. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ambassador. Let me ask you again about this explosion at the hospital in Gaza. It is so important to get this right. It's inflamed so much of the region. Tell me everything that Israel says it knows about that explosion and why Israel is adamant it was not. Why Benjamin Netanyahu, the IDF, says it was not them.
So first of all, we don't target hospitals. And so that's policy. Now, there's always the possibility that it was mistaken fire. And we checked ourselves, and we didn't find any examples of that. And then we looked at videos. And we looked at a video from the Al Jazeera network, which, as you know, a pan-Arab television satellite channel. And they're not particularly friendly to Israel. And they had a video that showed the missiles going up and over the hospital and one falling. There was an Israeli video that corroborated the same thing taken on our side of the frontier. All this is public information. You can look at the videos yourself. And we also had an intelligence intercept of 2 Hamas operatives talking, where they actually admit that they know that this was an Islamic Jihad rocket. Now, this is not a surprise. In the past, we've seen many of the rockets of Islamic Jihad malfunction. Some people have put the statistics up in close to 30%. And they malfunction, they fall short, and they land in Gaza, and sometimes with fatalities. There was a documented case in the last round of fighting in 2022. There was an Islamic Jihad rocket that landed on a refugee camp inside the Gaza Strip. Obviously, it was aimed at us. And at the time, of course, everyone said Israel, Israel, Israel. And at the time, we also proved conclusively, there was video images, seeing the rocket take off, the trajectory and the malfunction, it falling on the neighborhood. That was the case this time. You shouldn't be surprised that if Hamas, of course, I mean, to be frank, we've seen how brutal they are. We see they have no qualms about killing innocent people. And so I don't think you should be surprised that they have no qualms about being very, very liberal very, very untruthful. Liberal and what I'm trying to say, they were very loose with the facts.
Dishonest, I think, is the word you were looking for as well. Let me ask you respectfully about credibility here. And I know our reporter Stephanie Goss just mentioned it. I'm sure you've heard it. Israel has walked back claims that it did not do something before, most notably pretty recently, the killing of a Palestinian-American journalist, Shireen Abu Akleh, last year. IDF said it wasn't them. It was Palestinian fire. It was the IDF. Is there a credibility problem here? When you say you didn't do something, maybe there's a lot of people in the Arab street who say, hey, listen, you've said that before and it wasn't true.
So first of all, I'll ask you the first question. And you've got a democratic country which has checks and balances, and you've got a terrorist group. And you have to ask yourself, who is more credible?
I am glad that she pressed him on the reporter who was shot really by the IDF. He claims it's inconclusive, but, immediately the IDF said he was shot by the Palestinian reporter, was shot by the Palestinian terrorist. But in fact, most of it has led to be that it's more likely that a person from the Israeli Defense Force did it. Again, look, we are not trying to defend terrorists. We're not trying to defend any of that. We're just saying, however, that every story has many sides, and then there is what has really occurred. And like I tell people all of the times, look at what's occurred in Gaza. Look at the conditions in Gaza. Look at what occurs on the other side of Gaza. And you tell me, and again, this is a question for you. You have to ask yourself, what is inhumane on all sides?
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.